This video is brought to you by Asub12 Productions. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to enjoy the videos. Also, please try and comment and rate the videos. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome to C++ tutorial number 11. Today we're just going to be looking over loops. Not loops in general, one loop for the moment. We'll go over other loops in later tutorials. But the loop we're going to be looking at is going to be the while loop. Okay. So just include IOStream because we're going to be outputting some stuff, and that's all you actually need in main. And we're just going to declare an int variable called control and assign it a value of 1. And this control value, this control variable is going to control our loop. That's why I've named it control. And now we're going to say while, and then two parentheses, and inside parentheses we're going to have the condition for the while loop. And I've just put control. And then I've just marked out some comments. I said, think back to the if tutorial. Remember, ifs need a true/false test. Also do loops. That's why this works. So this is actually the same as saying control is not equal to naught. Because while loops, they operate on a true/false condition. So this is saying continue looping through the loop while control is anything but 0. Because remember, to create a false value it has to be 0. Otherwise anything other than 0 is true. So what we're doing here is we declare this as 1, so the loop will actually run. If we declare this as null, then this wouldn't run, because right from the start the value inside control was a false value. Because when you declare it as null, it declares it with a value of 0. See here, when I hover over it says, whoops, let me get that back. It says define null 0, which basically means the keyword null is the equivalent of saying 0. Okay. So doing that will not work because we'll completely skip the loop. It will go, okay, while control is positive, or actually, yeah, I shouldn't say positive, any value but 0, loop through the loop. And because it's already 0, the control variable, this will not work. So that has to be 1, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. Oops, 1. Actually, it doesn't have to be 1. Again, it just has to be any value that isn't 0. Any value that procures a true condition, basically. So we have our condition and control variable. So this will now loop through anything between these two parentheses until the value inside the control variable is 0. And now we can see what we're saying, please enter a number, 1 to continue or 0 to end, and we're inputting a value into control. And although I said 1 to continue or 0 to end, again it could be any number but 0 to continue or 0 to end. I've just put 1 to make it easier. And so basically we give the user the chance to control the program. Well, not really completely control the program, but sort of control the program, as in whether you end the program or whether you continue the program. And then we've just got this char h stdsyn h, which holds the program once we get out of the loop, because we're also outputting some things. Let me just cover that. So after creating a control variable, I just output out of loop, and then inside the loop I put in loop, and then outside the loop again I put out of loop. And what this does basically is when we start a program it will say out of loop, and then immediately after it will say in loop, because there's nothing waiting for there's nothing that requires user input between outputting this and getting to the while loop. So it will print out both of these immediately as soon as the program starts. And then if we press 1, it will loop back, so it will then output in loop again. And it's basically just a demonstration to show how the loop works. Let's just play it. I might not it might not seem so clear at the moment, but it will when I run the program. Okay, so as I said before, it outputs out of loop from here, and then immediately after it outputs in loop, because we output out of loop and we go straight into the loop, and it outputs in loop, and then it outputs please enter a number, and so on and so forth. And we've got the sin thing here. And now if I press 1, or actually, again, it doesn't have to be 1, it just has to be any value that isn't 0, but I'm just going to be using 1 and 0 for simplicity. If I press 1 and press enter, it says in loop again, and if I press 1 and press enter again, it says in loop. But now if I press 0, it says out of loop. And that just that's kind of a demonstration which should hopefully help people with the idea of loops. Every time when we have a loop, the loop will go from top to bottom in the curly braces, and then when it hits the end, it will again go from top to bottom, until this condition here is false. Okay, so what we can see here is it's gone from top to bottom here. It's printed out in loop, sorry, at the top, and then it's outputted this, and then it's waited for the input, and then it's done 2 lines. And because we input 1, the condition is still true, so then it goes right back to the top, outputs in loop, outputs please enter a number, waits for the input, outputs 2 lines again after accepting the input. Because it's 1, it loops back to the top, outputs in loop, output please enter a number, waits for the input, and after input it gives 2 lines off. And even though we input 0 here, which will end the loop, it still outputs this, because the condition basically it only stops when we get to the end of the loop. So even if we took this away, let's just take this away, put it up here. Okay, now let's close this. So if our input was up here, let's play the program now. This time it only outputs out of loop because it's waiting for us to input, and after we input the thing, then it will input in loop. But if I press 1, it says in loop, and then please enter a number. We should have placed that back at the top as well, but we haven't. And then it does those 2 spaces. And if we press 0 again, you can see, even though we press 0, which makes this condition false, it still gets to the end of the loop before exiting the loop. Okay, that's something you have to understand. We can change this, and I'm going to talk about that in a sec. We actually have to involve a break statement, which I talked about briefly in the switch tutorial previously. But we're going to get into more detail on that in, I think it's 12 or 13. I've typed out up to tutorial 13, so I've done all the work, I just need to record them. So we're going to talk more about how we can involve the break so that as soon as the condition here is false, it exits out of the loop. Whereas here what's happening is it has to get to the end of the loop before it exits out of the loop. So anyway, this has just been a quick tutorial on while loops. Possibly the next tutorial I do will be on making a calculator. Because really we only needed to cover loops before making the calculator, so I'll think about it. We might have to do a couple more tutorials before the calculator, but it's coming soon. So anyway, this has just been an ASIP 12 tutorial, over and out.